What a magnificent building, eh? That glorious white tower. Very easy to be seduced by the romantic, noble beauty of a lighthouse on a day like today. No wonder so many of us dream of living in one, or for that matter, even building one. But beware that siren call, because if a lighthouse has a single message that it shouts out, it is this: stay away or risk destruction.
You were further that time.
Edward and Hazel Short have moved from Greater London to North Devon with their daughters Nicole and Lauren, looking for a different pace of life.
I dreamt of being close to the sea. I dreamt of being almost a touchable distance of a wild, stormy sea. Oh! But I think this is about as close as you could get.
Oh, I can't believe I missed.
Their home is an ordinary-looking 1950s house in an extraordinary location. It's nestled between some of the best beaches in England, a true mecca for surfers all year round. Average house prices in this hotspot are remarkably higher than those in London.
So how long, girls, before you're going to be out there surfing the point?
Every time I drive down the driveway, I kind of look and think, I can't believe I live here. Oh, we can stay. We're not just on holiday. This is our life for years to come.
Hazel's an ex-retail buyer and has taken time out to be with the kids. Edward's now working part-time in the music industry, where he was a high flyer.
Joined the industry at 19, and I was given various gold discs from being involved with sales. From Elton John, Van Morrison. Pride and Joy is from 1990, where I was Pop Salesman of the Year.
He also, in the 90s, launched a successful brand of dance music compilations, which still yield him some major royalties.
Euphoria, which has now sold, I think, sort of maybe 6 million copies, and one I just I've loved working on.
Edward and Hazel plan to put all their savings on the line, knock down their 1950s house and build something very special in its place.
Well, there is a big storm due.
You like a storm, do you?
Oh, absolutely love it.
Wow.
That's why you live in places like this.
The thing is, you've got a perfectly good house here, yeah? It's solid, yeah? It's quite decent.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you want to knock this down and build something else?
I always looked at it and thought, that'd be so cool to knock it down and build a lighthouse. And once you've got a dream like that, once you've got a dream like that in your head, it just doesn't budge.
Just like that.
It's just one of those spots, I suppose, that you could expect to find that type of building.
Yeah, it's dramatic, really dramatic, and it needed a more dramatic house because it just doesn't really do the spot justice.
You say lighthouse, but it's not going to be a traditional Victorian lighthouse, is it?
No, modern.
Yeah, white.
White, glistening white with lots of glass. So it will look striking, but it should look fantastic from the main people who are going to see it are out at sea.
It won't actually have a light, but Edward and Hazel's home will really resemble a lighthouse with a 4-storey tower.
So you have a rotunda at one end, which is just above us here. The top of the so-called lighthouse is the storm room with windows looking all around the view, where you see everything and get hit by everything. It's just, I find that very appealing.
You might think that coastal erosion would be a problem here, but Edward sees it as a design opportunity. To me, putting a house on top of that cliff is madness, because the cliff is crumbling away.
But the new house is taking that into account. It's kind of embracing cliff retreating. So you want to be as near to the edge as possible. Rock anchors, it's just not a problem. But eventually when this sand disappears, we were outside space, then almost hangs over the edge, which would be, well, that will be dramatic.
That is bonkers. Edward and Hazel's lighthouse will be a feat of complex engineering. At the back of the plot, a level platform will be excavated out of the hard bedrock. Closer to the edge, the cliff is made from crumbly sandstone, so they'll need to sink 25 big rock anchors here, each burrowing down until they reach solid bedrock. Given the exposed location, they'll also need a lot of steel, 100 tons of it, to support the concrete and blockwork structure. But all this will get hidden behind a skin of coastal white render and shimmering glass, a proper lighthouse palette. Behind the tower will sit the main accommodation block, 2 stories high, set behind an 18-metre infinity pool. The windows will be triple glazed and thick to withstand gale forces. The right wing of this house will be for guests. Next to this, on the ground floor, there'll be a living room and cinema. Directly above, on the second floor, will be the girls' bedrooms, each with a bathroom and a balcony. All in all, there are 6 bedrooms in this modernist rockstar pad. The rather vast main kitchen and living space will enjoy uninterrupted views across the pool to the sea beyond, and will connect via a small flight of stairs to the main tower and to the dining room, glazed with 9-foot-high windows. Above this will be a dressing room. On the 3rd floor of the lighthouse, the master bedroom, and at the very top, a glazed observation room, Edward's storm room. A pretty jaw-dropping cantilevered access road will hang mid-air as it sweeps down from the main road. And as if there weren't drama enough, time will add its own cliffhanger, literally, as the sandstone erodes over the years, leaving the building to float above the sea. Astonishingly, Edward and Hazel reckon their coastal mega-structure will take just 18 months to build. So who built this for you? I mean, somebody who knows what they're doing.
Extremely good professionals. I mean, that's a dangerous site for a construction company to work on.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got a really good consultant team.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, all this costs, doesn't it?
I mean, it's out of the total budget, I think professional fees are probably around $250,000.
$250,000 on professional. That's what people would build a house for.
But this, in theory, they will make sure it's done properly. I mean, you can't cut corners.
How much are you
you can't
spending
take
on
any
this
risks.
then?
Well, the total build, including the professional fees, is 1.8 million.
Right. On top of the purchase of this house, which was how much?
That was 1.4, including stamp duty.
So it's 3.2 all in. Where does all that money come from?
Some savings, a lot of borrowing.
Have you got someone to lend?
Yes. So,
How much are they lending you?
Enough to cover the build.
Good luck. So Edward is borrowing £1.8 million, a terrifying sum. But he thinks and borrows big, undaunted by the scale or the risks of building on such a dangerous exposed site. The great American architect Philip Johnson said that all architecture has the responsibility to protect, shelter, cuddle, and exalt human beings. And this project, this project is all about trying to create something that allows Hazel and Ed to love where they are and make every possible connection with it while being indoors. Unfortunately for Edward and Hazel, the economic outlook seems as stormy as the local shipping forecast. The year begins with economists predicting a deep global crisis and a UK recession. The banks grow nervous and restrict their lending. Within 2 months of my visit, there's bad news.
We had a provisional agreement for the bank, and the problems in Europe just grew worse and worse, and they pulled their provisional agreement they had with us.
Without the £1.8 million loan, Edward has no choice but to put the project on hold.
It's very hard to explain to the children the delays, when you prepare to move and pack up, and then you don't. When they knew there was a bank meeting, they both offered to make some cakes for the bank to make the meeting go well. But it's a sign of the times, and it's hard, it's difficult.
We're really excited because we had already started putting stuff in boxes and stuff, and then my dad suddenly told us one of the banks said no, and we were so gutted. And me and Nicole have been trying to raise some money because we've been doing car boot sales and stuff, but it's quite hard because it rains a lot here.
After 2 frustrating years of car boot sales, Edward changes tack. He gives up on the conventional lenders and borrows £500,000 from a hedge fund. And astonishingly, starts to build something else.
The recession has developed what I would call the high street of banks that like to say no, and I've had so many no's. You start to get quite resilient to it. And I'm standing on the solution now.
His radical plan is to build a small 3-bedroom house at the other end of the plot, then borrow against it to fund his beloved lighthouse.
Getting a mortgage on the main house is potentially now so difficult. This has to be done. So I don't have any option. No option at all.
But this end of the site also sits perilously close to a crumbling cliff face, so progress is tough. For 21 months, all of Edward's efforts go into constructing this smaller house. On the main plot, nothing happens. You know, I'd quite forgotten how wild and how beautiful this coastline is. And you might ask why my memory is so deficient. And the answer is I haven't been here for 4 years. Hello, strangers.
Hello.
Good morning.
Long time no see.
Very long time. Despite the lengthy break, I'm not even here to see a lighthouse, but the new project he's christened the Eye. It's big. This could be your finished house. Oh, wow. Edward's plan seems to have worked. Now he has a shell of a building, he has an asset. He secured a loan of £2.5 million from private investors. This huge sum should cover the new build cost for the lighthouse, a cost which has gone up thanks to bigger professional fees and contingency. We can go in. Sitting room, then.
3 bedrooms with a shower and then a bathroom at the end.
That's it.
That's it.
And how much are you having to sell all this for?
Maybe 2.5. It's those sorts of figures.
Sorry.
This
scary.
is a penthouse apartment without anyone below you on the top of a cliff face. That's how you got to see it. And it's got to sell for that to fund that one.
Well, £2.5 million in London, it buys you something about this size. I can't believe that those values are matched down here, are they?
No, that's probably the one good thing about all the delays, in that the time it's taken us to get the funding, actually the prices along this ridge have gone through the roof. So
it makes you sound like international property developers, all this. You know, you're dealing with very large sums of money. Do you enjoy being a player?
I've had no choice. I didn't want to go down this route.
it's just being forced into a corner. We had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
All our
It's
money
gone,
is gone.
gone.
It's all borrowed and it's all
gone now.
gambled.
Wow. So here's the thing. Edward and Hazel seem to be risking everything on a bet that they can somehow sell this new smaller house that they're building on the site for £2.5 million. Now, in my view, the odds are stacked against them because the housing market is fickle. And if they can't sell this smaller place, well, then they risk not being able to live in the house that they really want to build. And they risk losing everything. And that is one heck of a jaw-dropping wager, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Edward and Hazel have been dreaming about today for 5 years.
It's quite brutal.
I think I'd enjoy that job. It's quite very satisfying.
At last, they've raised the money for their £2.5 million lighthouse home, having borrowed against the value of the smaller house, called the Eye, that they're constructing on site. And now that their old house is being demolished, there is no turning back.
Strange set of emotions because it's a family home. We've had great times. So but then I've spent the last 5 years of my life desperately trying to get rid of it. So.
Oh my God!
The girls are now teenagers,
I can't believe that's our house.
but there's time for them to be a lighthouse family yet. Edward honestly thinks it'll only take 18 months from now to complete. In the meantime, they'll be moving to rented accommodation.
I'm a little bit sad when I did like where my room was. I just kind of keep thinking how nice the new house is going to be when it gets built.
2 months later, the critical groundworks are underway on the main lighthouse. It's a precarious site with 2 types of rock, a tough blue slate bedrock and a soft sandstone which will erode over time. Crucially, this house depends on being safely anchored to the solid bedrock beneath to survive. And the architect, Alan Phillips, is confident this can be done.
The building has 2 parts to it. One part is sitting on bedrock, which we had to excavate down to find, and the other bit of it comes off the edge and sits on piles.
And they too are making contact with the bedrock.
Yeah,
So how many piles are there altogether supporting the building?
there'll be 25 piles. I estimate at the moment between 20 and 25 metres down, which is a big pile. But what it means is now that the whole of the cliff face can be washed away until we just get to raw rock, and the house will just be floating over the top of it, but completely stable,
Remarkable.
which will then look stunning.
Edward's specialist team are not just piling down, they're also grinding out a huge flat ledge into the slate for the house to sit on. But the slate bedrock is so hard, it's proving to be a mixed blessing.
I've driven a digger for 10 years and it's the hardest rock that I've ever seen. What would normally take us a week takes us a month.
It's so tough that the contractors have had to bring in specialist machinery.
We did a bit of Googling to basically look into what sort of equipment would be best for this site. We found the rock wheel, which is generally used in mining.
Gradually, the footprint begins to emerge. It's taken 5 tortuous years to get here, but the family can start to visualise their future home for the first time.
This is all an outside seating area, almost like you'd find on the front of a boat.
So all around the building there'll be glass doors leading out onto...
Yes, leading out onto this.
It was always like a dream, this house getting built. So seeing them here building, it makes it like a lot more believable.
Makes it come to life, because you know it is definitely happening. And now we can actually see it. Like, now all my friends will believe me.
It could be plain sailing from now on. After all, it was inspired by this striking modernist landmark, which flew up in just 9 months. The Delaware Pavilion by Eric Mendelsohn and Serge Chermayeff in Bexhill-on-Sea is reassuringly similar. Just as with Ed and Hazel's tower, this is a series of observation decks. It's a viewing turret. This centre for arts and entertainment was built over 80 years ago in the belief that architecture should cater for holistic well-being. There was a library for the mind. There was a restaurant to feed the body. And there was, at the top here, and is and remains, a deck to bathe in the sun and feel the wind, to enrich the spirit. This is the ethos behind Edward's storm room. That's enough spiritual nourishment. It's hard to imagine now just how revolutionary this building was when it was built in 1935. No one had seen a building like this in the UK, and it sort of set the template for what we've come to know as seaside architecture. But there are lessons to be learnt here too. When it was first designed, it included a swimming pool that would lead right out to the sea, and there were talks of a cinema and a hotel as well. These things never came to be. And that's because the project went from a budget of £50,000 to then 60, and finally £80,000 in 1935. So, we'll see what kind of precedent that sets for Ed and Hazel then. The history lesson here is that their £2.5 million lighthouse budget may not be enough. And the geology lesson, probably saying the same thing. Because the first key stage, excavating thousands of tons of blue slate rock for the foundations, has taken a mind-boggling 6 months longer than expected.
It was impossible for the contractor to put a price on the actual groundworks foundation. So he put a figure, an estimate, and then he also put an estimate for a contingency. Everything's gone. The contingency was £200,000. That's all gone, and all because of dealing with this blue bedrock slate. Terrifying is an adjective that doesn't really sum it up, if I'm honest.
To finish all his complex foundations and pour his concrete slab, Edward has spent a shocking £1.2 million. His entire contingency is now gone. He can't afford for anything to go wrong from here on. Although, erecting the vast steel frame on this wind-battered outcrop isn't going to be easy.
That swinging the right way or the wrong way? All right, hang on a minute.
The slightest breeze makes lining up these giant steel struts a ludicrous job.
They've only allowed a mill's clearance on these holes, so it's a good job the guy's got those bars they can ram through, which holds it steady on the hole. Otherwise it'd be a nightmare.
This is the bit you haven't seen for a while.
The circular design of the building means a complex and circular steel frame that costs 150 grand.
It's a pity lighthouses won't make it square, because it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper.
It's also a pity lighthouses don't get built inland and out of the wind. The crane doesn't like the weather.
Why are we not working?
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be the nature of the site, because it's so exposed here. If I'm lifting up 12, 13-foot steel, if a gust of wind suddenly comes, that steel will swing. I got no way of stopping it.
It's all too dangerous. The wind stops work for the day. Just one floor of Edward's 15-metre tower has been assembled so far.
There are tons that sits obviously on the most exposed part of the site. It's the highest part of the build, and it's also at the very far end of the reach of the crane. So all these factors work against us when there's any wind. You know, we could lose 3 months, which would be a disaster.
But 5 weeks on, the winds of change have been kind to Edward. They've made proper progress.
Oh my word. Every time I come to the site, it's just got much, much bigger. This looks like some kind of water-cooled nuclear reactor being built, or some new installation for GCHQ. Morning.
Good morning.
Hello, strangers.
Yes, welcome back after
Welcome back again.
Thank you. Long time no see. From here, it looks like a combination between foundations and sea defences.
Exactly, yeah.
He's quite close to being correct.
Can we have a look around?
Yeah, let's.
It's easy to forget why Ed and Hazel are persevering with all of this, borrowing and spending terrifying amounts of money. But in truth, this house will be an astonishing place to live.
Oh, Lord. This is the pool, isn't it?
It is.
With yet more steel in it. It doesn't look very glamorous at the moment, but it's going to be, isn't it?
Yes.
If you're going to be able to stand and look out over this pool. Is it bigger?
It is.
What we said to you, I want to get right to the edge, I want to push everything to the edge, I want to look over the edge where it's...
Great motto
where
for this
can-
project,
Yeah,
isn't it?
right to the edge.
Where it can be edgy.
And nothing expresses that idea more than the rotunda, which is taking shape.
Wow.
You got that view there, you got that view there.
I'm sold.
Looking around, one thing is certain. None of this is cheap.
How much have you spent so far?
Well, tell you what, you have a guess.
I'd say you getting on for $1 million.
Yeah, we're over 1.5.
Does that include getting the eye done as well?
Yeah, no, the eyes on a separate budget. That's another $500,000 plus to look down there. We're in it now. We're in it. More than waist deep.
Edward had been hoping to finish his lighthouse for £2.5 million, but with so much still to do, it's clear even that just may not be enough.
I was just wondering whether you think you could have compromised here in any way, whether you could have altered the design, built smaller, we'd save ourselves a lot, we could pull back from the edge maybe.
Oh, you are right. But once the concept was there, to walk away from it has been very difficult. Would have been sensible, but it's been very difficult. A design in a spot like this, it shouldn't be tampered with.
So no compromise?
No compromise, no.
It's difficult to understand Edward's brinkmanship here, yet he does own a possible life raft. The smaller property, the eye, is almost finished.
Everything you look at now, I am relying on to sort the rest of my life out.
He needs to sell it for enough to pay off their hellish debt, giving them a chance to finish and live in the lighthouse. But it all depends on the eye's value.
There's a lot at stake here, isn't there? Because if you don't sell this for enough money,
There's no guarantee you're going to be able to live next door.
No, and that's where the dark moments come from.
Well, you've got enough money to finish it.
I've got enough money to build it.
But you'll have an enormous loan outstanding.
Then I've got to pay it off. There's only two ways of paying it off, which is selling this or having to sell that. To owe probably over 2 million. It's scary now, there's no doubt about it. You think, Christ, this is mounting up.
For many, the North Devon coastline is a holiday destination, an outdoor playground with long stretches of sandy beaches. Living here would be a dream, and your own cove, well, that would be heaven. Beneath their looming mega construction site, it's clear to see why Edward, Hazel and their daughters fell for this plot.
The beach, to me, is the main part of living here. The beach is in my heart, the beach is everything.
You can just be out here, kids all scrambling around the rocks, jumping in. I think it gives them that sense of freedom.
When we all come down here, we're all just like little kids again, just having fun and not like caring about anything else, messing around and pushing each other in. It's just like heaven.
But 6 years into their lighthouse project, their finances have become as precarious as their site.
Worst case scenario is that we have to sell the whole thing. Yes, it is really scary. Yes, we are in an awful lot of debt at the moment. And if I think about it too much, then I wouldn't sleep at night.
I find it quite scary to think that like maybe soon like this might not actually be ours and we won't be able to come here anymore.
Edward and Hazel had thought their lighthouse home would cost £2.5 million to build. But they've spent 70% of that already. And there's not much more than the main tower to show for it.
If we had to sell it all and I just have to drive past and say I lived there once upon a time, would be really hard.
Nevertheless, they keep digging into their loan facility. As winter draws to a close, the steel frame for the 4-floor rotunda is being filled in with blockwork. After waiting for 6 years, Alan Phillips, the architect, is excited to see the building moving on.
Whoosh! Isn't it fantastic? This double curve here, round and out and then back. It's just spectacular. Building curves out of blockwork is almost abnormal, and as a result, you have to cut all the blocks, and then you have to taper the cut. So it's an incredibly complicated job to do. But the play of light on a curve is sensational. So when it's done, it'll all look magnificent.
Magnificent in the end, but working on this cliff edge isn't getting any easier.
Because the floors are in now, the only access I got to drop the blocks in is in through the skylight, which is quite narrow. So with this bit of wind, it's a bit like threading the eye of a needle, let me put it that way. So yeah, it is quite difficult.
At least there are hints of a home beginning to emerge here. The family still dare to dream of leaving their rented place.
I'm looking forward to walking around when you can kind of get a perspective of the size of the bedrooms.
Seeing it get built, just imagine how it will be. It makes me want us to stay there so much more.
We always had that question of if we're going to live there or not.
The gamble I'm running is, depending on the amount that comes in, I don't know what the eye is going to sell for. If it sells for the amount I believe or hope it will, which is someone stealing it for less than 3 million, then we're fine.
Edward still hasn't set a sale price for the eye, but they're going to need all they can get. Because the builders have begun work on one of the most expensive and complex parts of the main lighthouse project, the drive.
So you just put a mark on a piece of paper. Oh, there we go, there's the driveway. And then you suddenly realise that there's nothing underneath the driveway. So the driveway has to be built as a bridge.
Hundreds of man-hours are needed to engineer this floating drive so it can span a void at a steep angle.
The level changes from up there down to here, what, 8 metres?
It's 8 at its lowest and I think it's 12 at its highest.
It's going to be extraordinary.
It is no architectural whim. This bridge is a necessity. Although the drive to the small house, the eye, is fine, the lower section that continues to the lighthouse is unstable.
It is the least expensive solution. I really cannot see any other way.
Although I do wonder whether Edward just couldn't resist the epic schoolboy challenge of the engineering here.
Concrete's coming in.
How many loads will fill this?
Probably looking at 5 lorryfuls.
5 lorryfuls.
Yeah.
Of course, it's taking longer than expected, which really hurts when you're paying a punishing 8% interest on a mammoth loan.
I think we've lost maybe 2 months on the schedule on the road above with the fact that it has to be so precise. So the cost to me therefore becomes time and length of project because the money that I'm borrowing on the project is at a higher rate, so that is the cost to me.
Now the heroic driveway is in place, the site looks like a weird hybrid of lighthouse and a junction on the M4.
Hello, it's changed. You're floating in midair.
This is beautiful. It's like a blinking RNLI slipway, this.
Yeah.
Is it necessary? Because you've got the site access which goes down to the other house.
Unfortunately,
It's not safe.
it's on sand in the middle of it, so at some point it would have gone.
Yeah.
This has been a very expensive, future-proof park.
Well, exactly.
But it had to be done.
I hope they'll have a future here to future-proof, because the couple have had to extend their loan to $3 million to help cover the costs of this road. How much for this?
It's big. It's got to be 80, 100, yeah. I mean, you look underneath when you look at the time.
Well, is that the point, that we're standing on fresh air here?
That's some of it.
80,000 pounds worth of fresh air. It's not just the cost of the bridge that is sky high. The tower's blockwork has been finished.
Okay.
So 200 grand's worth of glazing is arriving on site in batches.
I've got the weight.
These are no ordinary panes. They need to withstand hurricane blasts, so they're the highest spec.
The windows are very, very, very expensive.
Getting heavy out.
So all triple glazed, argon filled, and at that cost you can't get it wrong.
On a building like this, it's all about junctions, joints, and workmanship. It's going to be tricky. We're going to have to cockle it. Oh! We don't want any leaks. We've got to make sure that everything's belt and braces and a big lump of string as well.
And that specification holds especially true for Edward's observation room, now accessible at the very top.
The storm room.
That's remarkable.
It's only this point you get this huge expanse of view.
I really do like the sense of exposure, because you really are on a headland here.
Imagine being in a wild storm up here, though. It'd be mesmerising.
I hope I live long enough.
This is what it was all about. Hold something special already. It's a dream. It's a little boy's dream, isn't it? A little top of the lighthouse.
Is it a little girl's dream as well?
Nightmare at the moment. I think the scary thing is...
What's the good bit then?
If the eye doesn't sell for a certain amount of money, then this is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Us keeping it. That's the scary thing.
Right. It is scary. The $3 million they've borrowed is running out. So a desperate Edward decides the time has come to sell the eye. He needs big money now to carry on with the lighthouse.
Oh, hi, Christopher. I'm just calling about the eye. I'm under quite a bit of pressure now to sell it. Well, I just need $2 million for it. I can't take the risk of selling it way short of that mark.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Edward, you should not be selling that now. You know, the impact, the negative impact of the ongoing work is going to have a detrimental effect.
You know, I didn't want to be in this situation.
It's going to look like a distressed sale.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got any chance of achieving a sale figure, you know, close to that level, you really, really do need to have it completed.
Edward is trapped in a horrendous catch-22. He's unable to sell the eye until the lighthouse is finished. Their entire loan facility is used up. Further borrowing is a real struggle. He's stuck. It's now 7 years since this project started, and the site has been closed for 7 months.
I've just got to get out of this mess, really. This really is a low point. One that's very, very hard to put into words. Very hard. It's so hard to see when you've invested so much money and time and see it like this.
It may look dead in the water, but Edward still believes he can find a solution.
The site has been valued as a combination at 7 million, which gives me considerable leverage to get funding. I can't come this far and give up, but ran out of money and now need to get the job refinanced and get the builder back.
It seems inconceivable that with debts of over 3 million, Edward is clinging on to his dream, prepared to borrow even more. But the compulsion to do just that is powerful and familiar. Tantalising, isn't it? The promise of riches just outside your reach. Of course, these are just 2p pieces, but just imagine if each one was, I don't know, £10,000, then this would represent a sort of golden future. But by the time I've invested, I don't know, my savings, a loan or two, it's almost impossible to stop because you risk losing everything. I just need one more 2p. Flip! Edward and Hazel started their lighthouse odyssey 8 long years ago. They have gambled everything to build their modernist seaside superhome. It's been 2 years since my last visit. Plenty of time, I think, to finish it. Well, it is wonderful to be back in this landscape, or I should say seascape really, which is so beautiful. I think I'm less sure about the project, given the twists and turns of their adventure. I have no idea whether they've been able to salvage this lighthouse project, or whether it really has hit the rocks. In any case, it's a cliffhanger, isn't it, eh? This is it. Oh, my word. Not meant to look like that, is it? Really? Oh dear. These are just the bare bones of a house. A half-finished, desolate carcass. Not unlike an abandoned James Bond film set.
Hello, Kevin. Welcome back.
I think it's good to be back.
Yeah, I've had better days, I must admit.
Yeah, show me around.
Yeah, come in.
Give me a tour. The writing is most definitely on the wall here. The building writing its own graffiti. Wow. It's a little bit like finding the wreckage of a building washed up on the seashore. Do you know what I mean? Whilst at the same time being able to admire these almost finished shapes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said it's seen quite as positively locally as that at the moment. It's a bit of an eyesore, I think, is the feeling at the moment. It all came to a halt in June, July 2017.
2 years now?
Yes, 2 years. Run out of money, problems with funding.
This house could have been a masterpiece. Edward's dream hangs by a thread with the odd glimpse of future splendour. Whoa. Standing atop the staircase in Wells Cathedral provides you with a similar experience. Do you know that is such an enormous room? This would have been an epic dining room. Tell me how much you've spent on this building so far.
It's very close to 3 million. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Sometimes wonder if I might have been a bit ambitious and I'll just kick myself.
Oh, really?
No, it's got to be done properly here. It's got to be done properly.
You could have put anything on this site, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, but I didn't.
Yeah. Edward has a painful reminder of how much easier it could have been. Because the eye, just 100 metres away, took a fraction of the time and at nearly 1 million, a third of the cost. Oh, well, it's like descending into a grotto.
It's nice to have the opportunity to show you something I've finished.
And it is glorious. Like the lighthouse, this house is modernist and romantic. It may be single-storey, simple and hunkered down in the cliff face, but inside, this is truly a lighthouse, utterly luminescent. Very nice. Beautiful big kitchen. Beautiful sitting room. Massive great deck. What mesmerises me is the view. I'd move in tomorrow.
I love it. I do love it.
So all the rooms face that view?
Yes.
This is all Alan, your architect, isn't it? He just loves his big, curvy-wurvy, modernist Corbusier shapes. Gosh, it's like a 3-bedroom boutique hotel with all that connection outdoors and lots of luxy details. It's as though here you've sort of cut the building into the rock. Neat thing. Sadly, with the giant hazardous building site right next door, no one's even allowed to live here full-time. And the Eye won't sell for a premium price anytime soon. What are you going to do with this place? Are you going to keep it? Going to be able to keep it? Going to have to sell it?
Well, there's what I want and what's reality. What I'd love to happen is that I end up being able to pay the debt, sell that, get it finished, and keep this. Will it happen? Unlikely.
It is a grim situation. Faced with a catastrophic total debt of nearly 4 million, Edward's lost all hope of keeping his beloved lighthouse. And to keep even the Eye means finding a new lender, borrowing even more, and starting to build the lighthouse again.
I don't have the option of not finishing. I just don't have it. To finish that, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes over 2 million.
Gosh. That's a total of £6 million for both buildings.
This is a beast. This is a baby that's got so hungry it'll eat me. You know, it is that savage now. The end game could still be bankruptcy. You know, if there's one huge guilt that I have over everything, is the impact on the family.
I mean, so there's an obvious absence today, and that is Hazel. Is she still part of your life?
No, we parted company last year. I mean, I put her through a horrendous time with this, you know, knocking the family home down, not building another one, all our money into it. No one's got any idea what the outcome is. I don't think it gets much worse than that for a partner. So that's the guilt. I have to take it on the chin. My ambition and vanity has probably collapsed the marriage. So that's that. I think that's probably the truth.
I admire Edward for his honesty and his determination to keep to the architect's vision, but he's lost so much. And so have his daughters, who've now grown up and flown the nest. This house, this project was kind of woven into your lives for so long.
So long. Too long.
How did the pair of you cope with it?
I think it did take a toll. I mean, obviously, me and Nicole can't complain much because it took more on my parents, but it did take something out of us because we had to see them, you know, go through it. It's been horrible. Like, no one would have planned for all this to happen. It shocked me. I didn't think anything apart just building a house. I didn't think it'd be this difficult, if I'm honest.
What would you do with it? It's your instinct. What should happen?
I'd say this. I've always said the same to him. I'd say no matter how hard it gets, carry on. Because once you've started something, you put this much into it. If you just say no, then it means all those years, all that time, all that stress, all that panic, it's just a waste. I just want to see it. I want to see it. I don't want to prove everybody wrong. No matter how long it takes, we're going to finish it some way or another. We might not live in it, it might not be ours, but this house it's going to be here one day.
Amazing. You are his daughter, aren't you?
I am his daughter.
And who knows? Lauren might be right about the lighthouse because her dad has just heard that more money is possibly available.
Today, I've got a new funder. They have their own objectives. You know, they want a high-spec finish on the main house, so I just go from one lender to another.
What do you hope?
I'm going to finish it. I will. You'll be here again.
This is assuming, right, that the then owners will allow me in. That's another matter.
There'll still be a day before they move in.
Before I hand over. Well, ring me up
Yeah.
and let me know just before you hand over.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it done. What a day that would be. After all the struggles, to finally see this epic clifftop building in all its glory. Optimism, zeal, passion, commitment. I mean, these are all bywords for grand designs, aren't they? They're the stuff of self-build. They're what makes good architecture. And yet, when you take these human drives and you amp them up to maximum, that's when things start to go wrong. That's when you lose focus, where you can, as here, lose control, where you can lose even the very thing that you set out to achieve, which was to build a home for yourself and your loved ones. This place, this project, is a cautionary tale. And yet, who knows, I might still find myself coming back here in a few years' time to see a finished building. Edward still has hope. Back in 2011, aeronautical nuts Colin and Marta wanted to turn their passion into a building. So, well, it's going to be a bit like a control tower.
It feels totally crazy.
It is not a job for the faint-hearted.
We're probably £30,000 over.
Extreme weather and money problems brought the project to a halt. Of course, I had to come back and see this building finished.